Let's get weird into it. Number 9. The emotional support rock. Your brain is, for all its magnificent complexity, a panicky filing clerk who just spilled coffee on the archives. When a truly massive, life-altering event happens, a natural disaster, a house fire, a particularly aggressive squirrel uprising, the experience isn't neatly filed under T for trauma. It's a chaotic, swirling mess of sensory data, fear, and adrenaline. It's abstract. It's everywhere and nowhere. And your brain hates that. It needs something to hold on to. Enter the souvenir, a warped piece of metal from your car, a single, soot-stained teacup from a kitchen that no longer exists, a chunk of debris from a collapsed building. To an outsider, it's garbage. But to your brain, it's an anchor. This object transforms an overwhelming, formless horror into a small, physical, holdable thing. The abstract terror of the flood becomes the concrete reality of this muddy, dented license plate I found in my living room. Holding it, you're not just holding junk. You're holding a physical manifestation of the event. It gives the memory a location, a texture, a weight. It's a psychological paperweight, stopping the flurry of chaotic memories from blowing away into the ether of unprocessed trauma. It's your brain's way of taking an incomprehensible event and saying, okay, look, this is too much. For now, let's just focus on this weirdly shaped piece of brick. We can deal with the existential dread later. Basically, you've given your trauma a pet rock, and honestly, it seems to be helping. Number 8. The ultimate I was there story. Let's be honest, humans are storytelling creatures. It's how we make sense of the world, and more importantly, how we make ourselves seem interesting at parties. Surviving a disaster is a hell of a story. It's the ultimate trump card in any conversation about bad days. Oh, your flight was delayed? That's cute. My house was briefly an aquarium. But a story is just words. It can feel flimsy, especially when you're recounting something so surreal it sounds like a movie plot you made up after too much cheese. This is where the souvenir comes in. It's not just an object, it's evidence. It's Exhibit A in the case of You versus the Universe. You pull out a strangely melted bottle or a piece of shrapnel, and suddenly the story has gravitas. It's tangible proof. This isn't just about bragging, though there's a little of that. It's about validation. When you've been through something that defies normal experience, there's a deep-seated need for others to understand the magnitude of it. The souvenir acts as a bridge. It says, see this? This is real. What I went through was real. It makes the listener lean in, their skepticism dissolving as they look at the physical remnant of your ordeal. It's a way of proving your own resilience, not just to others, but to yourself. This object is a medal of honor forged in chaos. It's a testament to the fact that you went through hell and came back with a souvenir, which is way cooler and significantly more traumatic than a keychain from Disneyland. Number 7. The Narrative Leash. Traumatic memories are bullies. They show up uninvited, play on a loop, and rarely follow a linear plot. They are fragmented, intense, and emotionally overwhelming. Your brain, in its desperate attempt to regain some semblance of order, tries to weave these fragments into a coherent story. This is a fundamental part of processing trauma. Creating a narrative with a beginning, a middle, and, most importantly, an end where you are the survivor. A disaster souvenir becomes a critical prop in this storytelling process. It's a focal point. When you choose to look at it, you are the one initiating the memory. You control the encounter. You're not being ambushed by a flashback while trying to buy groceries. You are deliberately engaging with the past on your own terms. The object acts as a key, unlocking the story when you decide to tell it. This gives you a sense of agency over something that initially made you feel completely powerless. The tornado, the earthquake, the fire. They were forces beyond your control. But this small broken piece of that event, you control it. You can pick it up, put it down, hide it in a box, or display it on a shelf. You are the curator of your own traumatic history. By externalizing a piece of the memory into a physical object, you're essentially putting a leash on it. The memory is still there, sure, but now you're the one holding the handle, deciding when to take it for a walk instead of it dragging you around the neighborhood at 3 a.m. Number 6. The Mortality Paperweight. There's a long, slightly morbid tradition in human history called memento mori, which is Latin for remember you must die. Artists would paint skulls next to beautiful flowers, and philosophers would keep a human bone on their desk, all as a friendly, full-time reminder that life is fragile and fleeting. It sounds grim, but the point wasn't to be a downer. It was to encourage you to live more fully, to appreciate the now because the later is not guaranteed. A disaster souvenir is a modern, deeply personal memento mori. It's not a generic skull. It's a twisted piece of your own life, a relic from a moment you came terrifyingly close to the edge. It's a physical whisper of, "That was a close one." Keeping it isn't about dwelling on the disaster itself, but on the fact that you survived it. Every time you see that water-damaged book or that shard of glass, it's a potent reminder of life's precariousness. It can snap you out of complaining about trivial, everyday annoyances. Upset about traffic? Well, at least your car isn't currently floating down the street. Annoyed that your Wi-Fi is slow? Remember that time you didn't have electricity or walls? The souvenir serves as a constant, silent benchmark for what a truly bad day looks like. It's a grounding tool that recalibrates your perspective. It's your own personal, pocket-sized existential crisis, reminding you to appreciate the mundane beauty of a normal, non-disastrous day. It's a grim high five from your past self, celebrating the simple fact that you're still here. Number 5. Your brain's lucky charm. Humans are superstitious animals. We see patterns where there are none, we knock on wood, and we carry lucky pennies. When we're faced with overwhelming, random chaos, our brains desperately search for a reason, a logic, a system, and when it can't find one, it often invents one. This is where magical thinking comes in. Imagine you're in a house during a hurricane, and the whole structure is groaning and shaking. You're clutching a small porcelain cat your grandma gave you, and when it's all over, the house is a wreck. But you and the cat are fine. A purely logical brain would say, "I was fortunate to be in a structurally sound part of the house." But your terrified, pattern-seeking brain might whisper, The cat protected me." The disaster souvenir can become a talisman, an object imbued with protective power. It was there with you, and you survived. Therefore, the object must have played a role. It becomes a symbol of your luck, your resilience, your uncanny ability to get through the worst. This piece of debris isn't just a reminder of the bad thing. It's a reminder that you were stronger than the bad thing. Keeping it is a way to keep that luck with you. It's a physical comfort object, like a child's security blanket, but for grown-up existential dread. It's a completely irrational but deeply comforting belief that as long as you have this token of survival, you can survive again. Your logical mind might know it's just a bent piece of rebar, but the primitive, scared part of your brain thinks it's a +10 shield of not dying. Number 4. The need for closure. Our brains are obsessed with finishing things. Psychologists call it the Zeigarnik effect, the tendency to remember incomplete or interrupted tasks better than completed ones. It's why you can't stop thinking about that TV show that ended on a cliffhanger. A disaster is the ultimate unfinished task. It happens, it shatters your reality, and then, what? There's no neat conclusion. There's just an aftermath. The experience leaves a giant, open psychological loop in your mind. The story feels unresolved. There was no final boss to defeat, no puzzle to solve. There was just chaos, and now there's cleanup. Keeping a souvenir is a way to grapple with this lack of closure. The object is a single, contained piece of the unresolved event. By keeping it, you're not letting the memory just fade into a hazy, anxious fog. You're giving it a place. It's like saving a draft of an email you don't know how to finish. You're not ready to delete it, but you can't send it either. The object sits there, a physical placeholder for the mental and emotional work that still needs to be done. It represents the to be continued of your healing process. It's a promise to yourself that you will eventually make sense of what happened. It's a tangible piece of the puzzle, even if you don't know what the final picture is supposed to look like yet. It's your brain's way of saying, we're not done with this, but we're not going to let it haunt us from the shadows. We're putting it on the desk where we can see it until we figure it out. Number 3. The dark tourist in your own life. There's a strange, undeniable pull toward the macabre. People visit old battlefields, tour abandoned prisons, and watch documentaries about serial killers. This is dark tourism, the fascination with places and events associated with death and tragedy. It stems from a deep-seated human curiosity about the darker side of our own existence, a desire to peek into the abyss from a safe distance. When you keep a souvenir from a disaster you personally experienced, you become the curator and sole visitor of your own, hyper-exclusive dark tourism site. The safe distance is time. You're looking back at the horror from the safety of the present. The object is a portal, allowing you to briefly touch that terrifying moment without having to truly relive it. It satisfies that morbid curiosity that lives in all of us. What does it feel like to be in an earthquake? What does a house look like after a fire? You know, because you were there, and this twisted piece of metal is your proof. It's a fragment of the abyss that you can hold in your hand. This isn't about being morbid for morbidity's sake. It's about confronting the reality of what happened. Society often wants us to move on quickly, to rebuild and forget. But the human psyche doesn't work that way. It needs to look, to understand, to process. The souvenir allows you to do that privately. It's a safe way to engage with the darkness, to acknowledge the horror you went through without letting it consume you. It's your personal museum exhibit of the day the world went sideways. Number 2. The piece of history delusion. People will pay absurd amounts of money for a tiny chunk of the Berlin Wall or a nail from a historic building. We have an innate desire to own a piece of history, to hold something that was present for a significant moment in time. It connects us to a larger narrative. Usually, this applies to world-changing political events or famous landmarks. But for you, the disaster was a world-changing event. It changed your world completely and irrevocably. So, in your mind, that warped hubcap or fused-together stack of plates isn't just debris. It's a historical artifact. It's a relic from the Great Flood of my neighborhood or the wildfire of 2023. You are the historian of your own personal apocalypse. This object has historical significance because it is a primary source document from a major event in the history of you. This elevates the object from junk to treasure. It's not about the trauma anymore. It's about preservation. You feel a strange sense of responsibility to save this piece of the wreckage, to document what happened. Future generations, i.e. your kids, who will probably think it's just weird junk in a box, need to see this. It's part of the family history now. It's a way of framing the event not just as a personal tragedy, but as something bigger, a significant, definable moment in time. You're no longer just a victim. You're a survivor and a witness to history. And every good historian knows you never ever throw away the artifacts. Number 1. The identity marker. Before the disaster, you were one person. After the disaster, you are another. These defining life or death moments cleave our lives in two: the before and the after. The person you were in the before might seem naive, a stranger who worried about things that no longer matter. The person in the after is different, perhaps more cautious, more appreciative, more anxious, but undeniably changed. A souvenir from the event becomes a powerful symbol of this transformation. It's a marker of the fault line in your own timeline. It represents the moment you became the person you are now. To get rid of the object would feel, on some deep level, like trying to erase a fundamental part of your own identity. It would be a betrayal of the person who survived. Holding on to it is an act of accepting your new reality. It's an acknowledgement that this terrible thing happened. It changed you, and that's okay. You don't have to pretend it didn't. In a world that pressures us to get over trauma, keeping a physical reminder is a quiet act of defiance. It says, "This is part of my story. This shaped me. This is me." The object isn't a celebration of the disaster, but an acceptance of the journey. It's proof that you endured an incredible force of change and came out the other side. It's not just a piece of a broken house, it's a piece of a remade person. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.